Hi, this is Doug Ward from Tech Britain. We're in Cardiff. I'm here with co-founder of Dizzyjam, Neil Cocker. Thank you for your time, Neil.
Pleasure.
It's nice to meet you.
You too.
Just for our audience, you'd like to let them know about your background first, Neil. That'd be great.
So my main background is I came to Cardiff a long time ago to study here, so that's why I'm kind of still here. Love the city, fell in love with it, so I stuck around. I think I've been here half my life now. Shortly after graduating, I set up a record label with some friends, and I was DJing, making music, and that led to good, probably 6-7 years of running a record label that had a top 10 hit, spending my weekends sort of flying off around the world DJing. So you know, I had a pretty amazing lifestyle for a long time throughout most of my 20s, kind of basically waking up in a different part of the world, having sort of with a stinking hangover, having played my favourite records the night before to sort of hundreds or thousands of people. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then off the back of that, I kind of had the idea for Dizzyjam, which is where we are now, which is basically a print merchandising service for the independent music sector, which just allows anybody who makes, plays or promotes music to create merchandise for free and then sell it to their fans for a profit. We saw that it was very, very difficult to do merchandise, t-shirts and that kind of thing before we came along, primarily because it costs so much to get t-shirts printed in bulk. You always end up ordering the wrong combination of sizes, colours, all that kind of stuff, so and you always get left with a load of stuff left over, the pink skinny fit with the green writing that the drummer thought was a good idea or whatever. So yeah, so we kind of do this, and there's, you know, it's a way of making money for no cost, no outlay for the band. Yeah, and I do lots of other stuff around digital and creative businesses, helping sort of, you know, various organisations speak to them and working with them and all that kind of stuff. So lots and lots of bits and pieces.
I must say, when we came to Cardiff, you were kind of our go-to guy. You're very active in the community. First of all, you're involved with Startup Digest. How did that come about? To be honest, I can barely remember. I think primarily it was just kind of reading around. I'm always reading blogs about startup communities and how best to get startups in various locations sort of up and running. So I spend a lot of time reading American blogs, and Chris McCann, who set up Startup Digest, and we stumbled across each other somehow. And the reason I started doing Startup Digest, it was just an easy way to collate all the relevant events into a calendar and just mail them out to everyone once a week. It didn't require a lot of effort. It just requires me to sort of see what's been uploaded to the calendar that week and email it all off to the Startup Digest guys, and then they email it to everyone in Cardiff who's subscribed. So dead simple way really of just kind of trying to galvanise the community, because there's all these little pockets of events. There's some of the events that I run, and there's Cardiff Ruby Developers Group and the WordPress Developers Group, and these guys doing this over here, but kind of none of them really knew about each other, you know, not that much anyway. So this is just a way of getting all the relevant startup events in Cardiff all listed in one place, so it's just easy to know about them. And you're also the organiser for TEDx.
Yeah, TEDx Cardiff. I run that with Claire Scansbury, good friend of mine. That came off the back. We run Ignite Cardiff, which is kind of rapid fire talks events, very popular in America. So 5-minute talks with the slides that automatically rotate after 20 seconds. So it's kind of fun, exciting kind of events. Generally tends to attract an entrepreneurial, creative, developer kind of crowd. So that's really cool. And then we graduated to running TEDx Cardiff, which was more formal, more serious, less standing around in a pub really, so more of a theatrical setting, I suppose, for want of a better phrase. And yeah, that's gone really, really well. We sold out this year in 19 minutes, which broke a lot of records for the venue that we're in, the World's Millennium Centre. Yeah, and that's great. Again, it brings communities together to talk about different ideas and kind of get involved in their local community and to hear what other inspiring people locally have been doing. So whether that's like stuff in the medical, we had a surgeon come and speak to us about stuff he's doing on crime reduction around, he was noticing trends in knife and bottle crime, so he started talking to the police. A really, really innovative way of thinking. You know, surgeon you wouldn't have thought normally gets involved in crime reduction, but you know, really, really inspiring guy from the University Hospital. To John Haskell, Welsh fireman who's just rowed across the Atlantic for charity. So all sorts of different tales, and yeah, so that's a great day. We get amazing feedback, and we're just sort of blown away by sort of the reaction to those events. But very, very time consuming, really hard work to put on, but really, really worthwhile as well.
You were saying earlier off camera that you really want to keep the standard of TEDx Cardiff very, very high.
Yeah, we kind of made a rod for our own back, really, in as much as our first event went much, much better than we expected. The feedback we got was phenomenal, and so then the expectation sort of grew from there. So year 2, we kind of sold out in like 58 minutes or something. So this year we're like, oh well, it won't. We raised the ticket price because we needed to cover all our costs, because it's a not-for-profit event run by volunteers. I mean, Claire and I are the visible front of it, but there's lots of people pitching to make it happen. Yeah, so it kind of we thought we raised the ticket price, and we haven't had as much time to put into promoting it this year, so we don't think it'll sell out as quick. And so the guy from the World's Millennium Centre phoned me about 15 minutes after tickets gone on sale. I was like, "Hey Rob, how you doing? We sold any tickets yet?" And he was like, "Yeah, we sold all of them. There's a couple left, but we'll have sold out within under 20 minutes." So kind of flabbergasted, and yeah, so it's kind of difficult. The expectation's really, really high, and it's difficult. Claire's got a family and a high pressure job. I run my own startup, so it's kind of a full-time job on top of our own full-time jobs already.
Yeah.
So
when's the next one?
We don't know yet. So
okay.
The last one was the end of March 2012. It won't be till next year. We only run them once a year. I think we need a couple of months to sort of get over the post-traumatic stress disorder, and once we're over that, then maybe we'll look to next year. So every year after each one, we kind of, it's like running a marathon or something. You cross the finish line, you're like, never again.
Yeah.
And then a month later, you're like, I think quite fancy. Cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, so we'll see. We're both really busy at the moment, and we want to do it again. It's just about finding the right time. A lot of it's about sponsors as well. We can't run it without sponsors, and nobody's got any money at the moment. So that's almost half the battle, is finding someone who's willing to give you the money to make it work.
Just at this point, I'd like to get across some of the websites. So Dizzyjam, where can I find Dizzyjam?
Dizzyjam you can find at dizzyjam.com. DIZZYJAM. What else?
The blog?
My blog, neilcocker.com, which I don't update half as often as I do, and when I do, it's normally some half-assed opinionated rant, but it seems to get a few readers. What else?
TEDx?
TEDxCardiff.co.uk, got ignitecardiff.net, and the very, very early stage startupcardiff.com, which I suppose we'll come on to, trying to galvanise the startup scene in Cardiff a little bit.
So what's your thoughts on Cardiff's tech scene today?
I suppose we're using a startup analogy. It's pre-revenue. It's an early stage pre-revenue startup. The roots are there, the will is there, the talent's there. It's just there's not a critical mass. So there's lots of people doing lots of cool stuff. Nobody's really aware of each other that much. Nobody's really talking to each other that much. So for a very small city, it's really easy to find two guys doing very similar things who live a couple of streets from each other who just don't know about each other. So it's kind of, I think with a little nudge in the right direction, it'll be really, really successful. But I still think we're probably 5 to 10 years away from being a success story. And we need one. We need a $1 million tech company here. Whether they parachute in or whether it's homegrown, there needs to be a kind of flagpole in the middle of it all for everyone to go, hey, look what these guys are doing, we can do that. And
it's real. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Kind of this bonfire around which to kind of have this conversation. And so, yeah, rather than, guys, at the moment it kind of feels like guys building apps in their spare bedroom, which is great, and that's where all things start, but it's a very seedling stage. We need some companies that are generating serious revenue and employing people, and and then government, council, those kind of people will start to take it more seriously.
As it stands, there's I believe a tech co-working space just on the outskirts of Cardiff.
Yeah, I mean it's not specifically tech. It's just a co-working space, and they're great, really, really cool guys who run it. Indie Cube, they're worth checking out. again, I mean, it's a little bit outside Cardiff, so I haven't been up there for a while, so I don't know sort of what type of businesses they've got in there, but I know that they do have some developers and tech guys in there, but I think they also have some more mainstream businesses in there as well. Yeah, really, really cool. I think there's some moves to try and get one set up in the centre or in Cardiff Bay, which is kind of a second centre for Cardiff. There's a lot of design agencies, web development agencies down the bay, so it's kind of a natural home for that kind of stuff. A lot of people live down that part of town, and again, it's Cardiff. We're such a tiny city. It's, you know, nowhere's really that far from anywhere else. It's just IndieCube just happens to be that little bit further out. It's on a dual carriageway. It's, you know, it's just not easy to pop on a BMX and with your rucksack and get there. So.
So perhaps you'd like to see something in the city centre at a later date to complement this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's kind of there are some people trying to do that at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difficulty is making it work financially. I've certainly looked at it. I kind of sketched out a business plan or a kind of financial plan really for one a while back just to see how viable it was. You know, city centre or Cardiff Bay rents aren't cheap, and so, you know, you're looking at a high occupancy to make it work, and then, you know, do you need an administrator on site all day to make, you know, do you get the community to run it for themselves? And it's, I think, to get it up and running and to make it at least break even, it's going to be difficult, but there are people who are going to give it a really good go, so hopefully fairly soon it will transpire.
Yeah, I'm sure with the, like you were saying, the underground bubbling, it seems to be this is how it works wherever around the world.
Yeah,
it has
absolutely.
to take that kind of passion from the bottom up rather than the government just building something and
yeah.
So I mean, in terms of the government, Neil, what's your thoughts? Do you think they have a role to play in the tech community?
Yeah, very much so. It's slightly different here in Wales. We have devolved government, so we have our own Welsh government, who, like all governments, have good points and they have bad points. The good thing about the government here is that they're like 2 miles that way. You know, so you know, I can be in the heart of the Welsh government in 15 minutes. So it's not like, you know, say if you're in Birmingham or Newcastle or whatever, you know, your government is several hours away. You know, my government is here, right in the heart of my city, in Cardiff Bay. My general feeling on government's involvement is they need to provide an environment and sometimes facilities for tech startups or for any kind of startups, but then need to learn to step back and let the communities run and foster whatever it is that's been built. So there are so many tools now that make it easy for people like us to communicate, to collaborate, to, you know, whether it's, you know, we were just talking about hours, open hours, a platform, and, you know, stuff like that, that just allow things to happen seamlessly and easily, whether it's a Ning social network, all that kind of stuff. So I think government have money, which is obviously always useful. They also have access to buildings, which again is useful, but I think sometimes they try and be too prescriptive. They try and direct things a little bit, you know, and the problem is a lot of public servants are lifelong public servants, and they're great, and you know, they should be commended for their public service, and, you know, we should respect that, but then they don't have their ears on the ground, and, you know, they don't understand the needs of business quite in the same way that you and I do at the coalface, doing this kind of stuff every day. Also, the difficult thing that government have to deal with, and, you know, you've got to feel sorry for them, is that they've got to appeal to me, micro startup trying with big plans. They've also got to kind of appease the guys who are employing 200 people up in the valleys in a factory, or Sony wants to build a new plant somewhere near Swansea. You know, I don't envy government. They've got a very, very difficult job. I think they just need to be better at standing back and also at communicating. Sometimes they do great things and don't communicate them very well, and sometimes they do bad things and then communicate them too well. And so, you know, so they need to work on the communications a little bit. A lot of that is just going out and speaking to people. I must be honest that my conversations with the Welsh Government recently have been really positive. People I'm speaking to are really, really positive. It's just like any major organisation, they're like an oil tanker. It takes them 20 miles to slow down and another 20 miles to turn around. You know, so it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So sometimes you have to say, work with what they give you, move on to the, you know, try and work with it as quickly as you can and move on to the next thing as quickly as you can.
Could we talk about Startup Cardiff? Or
Yeah.
Obviously the name's floating about at the moment. Can we let our viewers know
Yeah,
about that?
sure. So, I mean, it's dead simple, really. I've been looking at the startup scene here for months, years, in fact. And I've been doing various bits and pieces. I've run various events that have attracted the creative and digital community of startups in Cardiff. Been chatting to lots of startups. I mean, you know, I'm fairly active in the scene, so I know a lot of the people involved. But I'm also very aware that, you know, I'm in my late 30s. There's guys now who are developing really interesting things who are straight out of university. They're in their early 20s. They don't have the confidence to go to networking events. I'm too old to be hanging out with them and their mates, so we don't really know about each other. So my concern is that, for example, a 21-year-old is going to come out of university, stick his head up and go, what's going on around Cardiff? Look around and go, not a lot. When in fact there's lots and lots of really, really cool things going on, but there's no one place that you can find out about it. You can go to the Welsh Government business pages, but it's all very generic business support.
And who's going to go there?
Well, exactly. Government pages by definition are always a bit ropey anyway, so you have to scroll through 18 PDFs to get the information that you want. So Startup Cardiff is very broadly just going to be a very simple online community, calendar, newsletter, just as a point of reference. So if you want to find out about anything going on in the Startup Cardiff community, you go there. You want to, you know, speak to anybody involved in, you know, you want to ask someone's advice on how to best to speak to investors locally, you go there. It's going to be run by the community. It's going to be, you know, it's not for me. It's, you know, it's a community thing. We've already got a Facebook group and various newsletters and bits and pieces happening. It's just a case of trying to bring it all under one umbrella. May not end up being called Startup Cardiff. I mean, it's currently at startupcardiff.com, but you know, we might find a better brand for it that's a bit more reflective. I don't know, but broadly, it's about providing a single point of contact or, you know, advice, and it's all done by the community. Another important element of it is we're going to have a kind of board. So we're going to have 8 to 10 people who are elected by the community to come together 3 or 4 times a year and discuss what the issues they're facing, what those issues are, and feed that back in a really, really simple way, 2 pages maximum, to government, to council, to local organisations. Just because I think at the moment public sector doesn't quite understand the needs of tech companies, digital companies, creative companies. And you know what? Kind of why should they? I mean, you know, we expect a lot of our government, but you're also talking about people who, you know, business models move so fast that sometimes you and I are going to miss them. So it's probably unfair to expect a 59-year-old guy who's sat in a public sector office for the last 30 years to get it as well. He doesn't even have a smartphone, so it's probably unfair to expect him to kind of get it, you know. It's kind of like we were chatting earlier, it's, you know, the angel investment scene for tech startups in Wales is really, really poor. Again, because most of the angels in Wales made their money manufacturing, consulting, financial services. They don't always get how tech businesses work, how they scale, how they monetize, how they make money, how they get sold and who buys them, you know, all that kind of stuff. They're used to very, very traditional business models, and businesses that thrive on micropayments or, you know, that kind of thing, they're just not going to get that, and it's maybe unfair to expect they would. So we're looking at, you know, maybe if the community can help each other out there rather than expect somebody who really doesn't necessarily know how to help them
got to ask two important questions. One, first of all, the Bradfeld interactions. Like, being a big fan, we thought that was awesome, and just to see someone like that interacting with yourself, you know, a guy who's, you know, crazy busy over in the States. Can we share that with the viewers?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I had a bit of a contact with him through a friend of mine who I was at university with. He left to go to the States years ago. A guy called Tobias Peggs, who's run several successful startups and just exited from one now, and sort of sold that. Yeah, so I had a vague contact through Brad. You know, Tobias was based in Boulder until recently and knew Brad quite well. I was impressed with the work that Brad does. He seems very, very community oriented. He's writing a book about startup communities and how they kind of grow and what we need to do to foster those. I just wrote a short blog, sent him an email. He kind of responded. Yeah, and we've done nothing more than swap a couple of emails. But he's a really, really cool guy. He seems to get it, you know, totally gets the importance of it, totally gets that there's a movement that needs to be understood and be fostered, but also understands that there's not always a silver bullet. There's not one thing that will work, particularly because the cultural, economic, geographic reasons for startup communities thriving aren't the same in every city. You know, obviously it helps to have a lot of people, a lot of talent. And like Paul Graham says in one of his blogs, that startup communities basically just need two things: nerds and rich guys. You know, and that's kind of, you know, that's the start. But that's kind of maybe oversimplifies it a little bit. But there's so many other things. But yeah, Brad's, you know, the good thing about Brad is he seems totally engaged with, you know, he's a venture capitalist, so he understands the money side, but he seems totally engaged with the communities and the importance of communities being able to help themselves and to be, you know, build something bigger than just a couple of startups in a city.
Kind of repays the faith of the old stiffy image of a VC as well. When you go on YouTube and you see them doing the song, you know, I'm a VC, and you think, this guy's not stuck up.
Yeah, no, he's great. You know, he's got his treadmill in his office, and he's, you know, and he can't, you know, he runs marathons, and you know, he seems an active guy. You know, the guy who's not just there counting his pennies. He's there he's out there doing stuff. I mean, I think the thing that strikes me most about him is, you know, he genuinely got a zest for life. You know, he kind of seems like he wants to live life rather than just make money. It's just like, and actually that's the great thing about a lot of entrepreneurs and VCs and these days, is that there's a sense that it's all about creating a life, not about creating wealth. And I think, you know, if you create wealth, then that's a nice byproduct, but actually it's about creating a quality of life. And Brad seems to do that. You know, he's obviously made money, but I think if he wasn't enjoying what he did, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it just to make the money. He'd do it because, you know, he's doing what he does because he loves it first and foremost. So yes, that zest for doing what he does is really infectious, and just to see someone so proactive in their community and someone to look up to for the startups around the world.
I'd love to think at a later date we can foster links with Boulder and the UK.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we were chatting about it earlier. I totally agree. I'd love to get a kind of a sort of once a year, twice a year, get people over from Cardiff to Boulder and just kind of see how those guys operate. Because, you know, I mean, you know, what is it? 100,000 people live there. It's a tiny little place. But the quality of life there and something about it just makes it work for startups, you know. So
definitely. And I have to ask, the big vision for Dizzyjam.
Yeah, big vision for Dizzyjam. We want to be the #1 merchandising service for the music industry on the planet. Plus, you know, we've got a platform here that could be tweaked to any industry, any niche. So, you know, we could have a shop for, you know, the National Cycle Club of Great Britain. You know, it doesn't necessarily just have to be the music industry. We've got a platform here that we can white label, tweak it to anything. It could be, you know, it could be coders and gamers, you know, might want to have their own store where they upload their own designs and create that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, again, Dizzyjam is born out of a desire to wake up in the morning and think, great, I'm going to work today. I'm looking forward to, the day I stop enjoying it is the day I stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's got to make money, and I want it to make a lot of money for everyone involved. I want it to create jobs. I want to employ people. But it's got to be fun, and it's got to be enjoyable, and we've got to have a sense of doing something good. The great thing so far is all the bands involved. We've got several thousand bands signed up to us. The feedback we get is phenomenal. So we just need to keep doing that, keep growing faster.
Just anybody who's out there in Cardiff who's wanting to get in touch with yourself, Neil, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Okay, so you can either email me, that's Neil, Neil, @dizzyjam.com, or you can follow me on Twitter, which is @NeilCocker, NeilCocker. Yeah, that probably covers most of it.
You're open to anybody getting in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to chat. Anyone wants to get in touch, always happy to chat.
Awesome.